Hey guys, this is the video that I've been promising you for a couple of weeks. This is the video on the function of diminished chords. I know you've been hotly anticipating this and on the edge of your seats waiting for me to put it out, so here it is. There's a slight change of plan in what the video is about. We're going to talk about functions of chords in general and the difference between the use of a chord and the function of a chord. Okay, we're going to start with that. To talk about the difference between a use of a chord and a function of a chord, I'm going to take us out of the world of music for a second, and I'm going to talk to you about paint. This is a great analogy that was given to me earlier, and it really works. So we're going to talk about this stuff. Magnolia, standard magnolia paint. Okay, it has both use and function. Okay, its use, if you look at the face value as to why it's on the wall, it covers the plaster and it looks pretty. Okay, those are the uses. Why it's there. Okay. So that's the face value of why it's on the wall. Now let's look behind that face value at reasons as to why specifically they've chosen magnolia paint. First of all, it's cheap. You can literally buy a lorry full of it for a tenner. It's easy to clean. It's light, so it gives a sense of space. It's inoffensive, which is great in a rented accommodation. The list goes on. So let's bring that back to music because really, you don't want to spend too much time talking about paint or people look at you funny. So, let's talk about a G7 chord. Okay, that has both use and function. If I put it in a chord sequence, if I go, yeah, if I do that, that has both use and function. The use within there is to provide some kind of harmonic texture with the C chord, because the other chord was C, so we have G7 and C. So the use is to complement any melody that's going on. The use is to provide some kind of harmonic language between the C. If I was just chugging on a C chord, it would be really boring, but adding in that G7 chord just gives it something else. Okay, so that's the use. The function within that particular masterpiece that I just pulled together is that it's a perfect cadence. It's you're going from C to G, C to G, C to G, okay, or G to C. By adding that seventh, you're strengthening that cadence. It then becomes more functional because you're strengthening it. I'm going to do some more stuff on, or more functions of dominant chords in a second, but we're now just going to talk about what functions each chord kind of has. Okay, let's start with a major 7. Doesn't really have much function, a major 7 chord. I can't lie. It's not like a dominant that tells you a key you're in or anything like that. You don't get much more by adding the 7th that you would from a regular triad. The only thing you do get is what's called a timbre effect. It's very stylistic. If I go, it sounds quite different in terms of the feelings that it kind of gives you. Reason for it is you're adding an extra note, you're getting an extra 25% bang for your buck. It's what we call, like I say, this timbre effect, and it just adds harmony to it. So that's basically the main function of a major 7 chord. Sounds nice. Okay. Minor 7 chord, pretty much the same thing. By adding the 7th, you don't really get a lot of function there. You get a lot of use, you get a lot of timbre effect, and you know, it just sounds more interesting, but not really functional. Okay. Minor 7 flat 5 chords, or half diminished chords, similar kind of premise. If you played a regular diminished triad over a minor 7 flat 5, all you're kind of getting by adding in that extra note is some kind of timbre effects. You can use it to substitute, as a substitute within minor keys, but it's already kind of there, so timbre effect is kind of the best one to go on the test, I would argue, particularly as most of you couldn't actually do the pin my chord sequence thing, which is fine. Anyway, so let's talk about the main two, the big boys, or girls, dominant chords and diminished chords. Okay, so dominant chord, you've already mentioned one use for it, cadences. Dominant being the 5th chord of every diatonic series. 5 to 1, perfect cadence. Adding the 7th reinforces that. So yes, cadences. Another good use for for dominant chords is it's good to tell you, it tells you what key you're in, again because it's 5th, only happens once. If you've watched the video on pivot chords, which if you haven't, I'm deeply offended and I suggest you do it now. The whole use of dominant chords within a pivot chord situation is absolutely important because the pivot chord, the dominant chord tells you that you've changed key. So if I go C to F to A minor, we know we're in C. The C and the F go, yeah, we're all in C. This is all good. I go to the A minor, it goes, yeah, I'm in C too. But then you're also in G as well. You play the D7, and instantly the D7 goes, but we're now in G. Forget F and C, they don't matter now. We're going to play a G, and that's better. Okay. So that's what the dominant chord is doing. It's providing function by signifying the change in key. Musical law says you haven't changed key until you've hit the dominant and the root. So, that's what's going on there. So that's dominant chords in a nutshell. Diminished chords have various functions as well. The first one, or one of the coolest ones, is substitution. Because if we're in the key of C, and your chord sequence goes C to G7 to C, you can substitute that G7 for a B full diminished. Okay. The reason being is the notes in a G7 chord are G, B, D, and F. The notes in a B diminished chord are B, D, F, and A flat. So there's one semitone difference between G7 and a diminished chord. So you can substitute it, okay, which kind of sounds a bit like this. If I write, this is the first one. Or we can go, and we go to our diminished chord. So, okay. Not the quickest fingers in the world on that one, but there we go. So that's one use for it. When I said you flatten the A flats to a G, you get a dominant chord. That works for any note within a diminished chord. So we've got our B, D, F, A flat. If we flatten, say, for example, the F to an E, we get E, A flat or G sharp, which is the enharmonic equivalent, B, and then D, which is an E7 chord. So diminished chords are great ways of changing key, because I could go C, then to our diminished, then to E7, and then I'm in a totally different key. Then I'm back into A. Okay, so that's another function for it. It allows movement between keys, and that's a great function. It's an important function that both dominant chords and diminished chords have. So in the test, when you're asked about the function of a diminished chord, you can basically say that it facilitates the changing of keys. It's functional in modulation, which is what that is essentially. It's functional in the fact that you can substitute it for different chords, mainly the dominant, and that kind of thing. So I know this caused a bit of confusion. It's absolutely fine. We've got next week to do it. Not a problem at all. If you have any questions, as always, just Facebook message me or email me on my college email, which is gwodet@citybathcol.com. No, .ac.uk. Okay. Don't panic about the test. You guys are all fine on this. It's just a little bit of clarification, which is kind of what this video is about. And yeah, I'm going to put some tests on the net for you guys to just have a little practice over the week, see how you get on, and your grades will be up soon, so watch out for that. Have any questions, ask me. Other than that, thanks very much.